Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning. We're absent Mr. Anderson this morning. This should be interesting. Can I carry it? Heavy load, I guess I can. I think Martin's going to help us out a little bit this morning too. So thank you, Martin, in advance. There's a famous book that talks about those who cannot receive the things of the Spirit. Amen. With that in mind, here's today's quote. And once again, it's going to be from Mr. J.R. Harrison. And it goes as follows: Natural Family Foundation. The laws of nature and nature's God is the bond that holds all nations and societies together. The laws of nature and nature's God is the bond that holds all nations together. And when not properly applied, nations quickly become unglued. Does that look anything familiar that you're looking at this day and age? The King JR version here is Christianity is the glue that holds civilizations together. Christianity is the glue that holds civilizations together. In Ohio, we have a couple issues. Actually, we have more than two issues, but they're on the ballot in November. Issue 1 is about, actually both issue 1 and 2 are about parental rights. There's a lot of talk about abortion on issue 1 and making it amendments where everybody can get an abortion that wants an abortion. And issue 2 is about legalizing marijuana. And we're going to have a great guest on today, an expert, a lawyer who deals in this daily and has dealt with it for years. I can't wait to talk to him about what we're getting involved with. This is really, really, really going to be interesting, folks. But both of these issues, if you're honest about it, both of these issues are about parental rights. 2 words, parental rights. If your child, 14, 15, 16, has become pregnant and they don't want to tell you about it, they're ashamed, they know what they're doing is wrong. So they contact a school administrator, a school counselor. They send them to a doctor. A doctor says, yes, we can do that abortion. And the state will pay for it. They don't want to inhibit it, so they have to pay for it, right? That would happen. The child has an abortion. This can and would be done without the parents' approval or knowledge. And then when little Jenny is 22 and you have a conversation with her, well, oh, Mom, yeah, I had that abortion way back in so-and-so date. What? Yeah. This issue, or if they become a different sex than what they were assigned at birth, shame on us for assigning sex at birth, right? They can change that without parental approval or knowledge. Reproductive choices is how this is phrased. It's a very vague amendment. And this is amendment, not a law, an amendment. That's smart on our adversaries' part. Very smart. So the parents don't have to know about that either. And that can take place. That's issue 1. Issue 2 is legalizing marijuana. And today's marijuana isn't what your grandfather's marijuana was, okay? It's much different. But still, it's an inebriate. And we already have alcohol. Do we really need yet another inebriate? Free access to it? Another mind-altering drug that's currently found on the streets in America? Will most people consuming this marijuana, this THC, will they be responsible? You're taking the drug to inhibit you, to inhibit thinking, to numb your senses. But after all, it's not like cocaine or heroin, right? Again, in our first hour, we're going to welcome attorney Dave Evans of Addiction Law Consulting. And Dave will share some insight he's gained from years of experience that you just won't find anywhere else, folks. Christianity is the glue that holds civilizations together. Last week, I stated that if you continue to put yourself in a position where something bad can happen, say, for example, letting someone who has very little knowledge, letting someone has very little knowledge, let alone respect for the natural law, the laws of nature and nature's God, as our founders correctly noted, if you allow that individual and others like him to be your public servants, to handle affairs of state, along with others who are summarily in lockstep.
We're not on Rumble.
I'm not on Rumble yet. Martin, am I on Rumble? Give me a thumbs up or nope. Okay. It says it's streaming. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Probably me. But anyway, we're talking about putting people in positions that do not adhere to, do not respect natural law. And we're allowing individuals like them to be your public servants, to handle the affairs of state, along with others who are summarily in lockstep with them, responsible for carrying out those decisions. If you continue to count on others who say they do not agree with the aforementioned servants of the natural, of the unnatural, but never, ever do anything to stop them, that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. Yet we, the people, not needing to hear about change and the work required to do so, just say, well, the pendulum will swing the other way eventually, not knowing that the pivot point on the pendulum has already been moved further away from the natural to the perverted. Or worse yet, Martin, are we up? Or worse yet, okay. Or worse yet, from the natural to perverted. Or worse yet, just accept your fate that all things tend to disorder, worshiping at the altar of the second law of thermodynamics. Things tend to disorder. Come soon, King Jesus. Amen. And the result, in the end, something bad will happen. Or as we see in America today, something bad is happening. I've got the stream up. I have no idea what's happening here today, but we are recording for sure. Just say no. Marijuana, folks. This is crazy. By the way, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. Speaking of crazy things, that Mr. Pillow Guy is being audited by the IRS. 5 separate audits. 5 separate audits. I think it's time to buy some more My Pillows and sheets, don't you? Martin, I think you have a promotion for that. And if you can get that promotion up, we'll play that, and then we'll get to our guest in the first hour. Dave Evans, My Pillow being audited by, this is lawfare, folks. This is your government. This is your totalitarian government working against you, against others that are working on your behalf. And we, the people, need to do something, folks. We'll get into that in the second hour. Or just take a joint. Have your way with it. Right? Go ahead, Mr. Bushman, if you would. If you can. We'll try that. I'm not getting it. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to have Myra come in and read a Bible verse and get us started off on the right foot today. Myra, unmute yourself and come on in, darling.
Good morning.
Morning.
Holy Spirit, you're welcome to Last Call. Make yourself at home and delight us with your presence. And we bind the strong man and Holy Spirit has been already been invited. So it is written, Romans 6:19 through 23. I speak after the manner of men, because of the infirmity of your flesh. For as ye have yielded your members servants to uncleanness, and to iniquity unto iniquity, even so now yield your members servants to righteousness unto holiness. For when ye were the servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. What fruit had ye then in those things, therefore, thereof ye are now ashamed? For the end of those things is death. But now, being made free from sin and become servants to God, ye have your fruit unto holiness, and the end everlasting life. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Myra. Thank you. BJ Edwards, Last Call Radio. We hope we're live. Video, audio. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We're going to have our guest, David Evans, and we're going to talk about marijuana. Marijuana. BJ Edwards without Mr. Anderson this morning, and I think it's showing.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Marijuana, issue 2 in Ohio, but it's going to be an issue all across the United States. Ohio is the heart of it all. David's been in the marijuana game for a while, on the good side. Addiction Law Consulting. Let me bring you on here, David. There we got you. Welcome to Last Call, David, and thank you, sir, for taking the time to help us out this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, what got you in marijuana?
Well,
today, brother?
I was chairing an American Bar Association committee on alcohol and drug law reform, and a couple of lawyers from a big Washington law firm came to me about medical marijuana, and that it was useful, and the government was suppressing the information about medical marijuana. And I believed them and got a resolution through the American Bar Association House of Delegates in favor of medical marijuana. Now, my mistake at that time was not asking, is there another side to this issue? And a short time after this resolution went through, a couple of mothers in the anti-drug movement got a hold of me in the back seat of their car and beat up on me for about an hour. And I realized that I'd made a huge mistake. And so I've been doing penance ever since to try to undo all of that. And I've worked in substance abuse since being in law school in 1970. And I am just very upset by what's happening with marijuana, that our country seems not to have learned from the tobacco companies and the opiate companies. We're being sold another addictive, highly damaging drug, and on the basis of junk science, and on the fact that they've got a lot of money, and they have convinced a lot of people that legalizing marijuana is the way to go, just like they convinced people to smoke cigarettes, and that we should have looser restrictions on opiates. When the federal law came in, easing restrictions on opiates, we predicted there was going to be an opiate epidemic, and we were right. So we've now got a marijuana epidemic, and the science is now starting to come up, showing everybody that this was a huge mistake. This is a very dangerous drug. and were being fought by the marijuana industry, which has made millions of dollars, and they hire lobbyists and so forth. I argued against medical marijuana before the North Carolina legislature a couple of weeks ago, and there was maybe 15 to 20 lobbyists there on the side of the marijuana industry. Now, that's a lot of money. They offered one lobbyist $800,000 if he could get the North Carolina legislature to come out in favor of medical marijuana, which they did not do. So they were given a lot of good information, and they decided this was not good for the people in North Carolina. So my job right now is to litigate against the marijuana industry, to represent the victims of the marijuana industry, people whose children have become mentally ill or committed suicide or suffered some physical damage due to their use of marijuana. And we're going to see a lot of those cases coming up, just like we saw over 1,000 cases coming up with opiates.
Wow. How long ago did you get involved in this?
Back in the mid-1980s,
1980?
with marijuana. Before that, I was involved in the alcoholism field, but I've been with marijuana since about the mid-1980s.
Dave, I mentioned that today's marijuana isn't your grandfather's marijuana. How different is it? How different is it?
Well, it's quite a bit different. I'm a grandfather, and when I smoked marijuana back in college...
Wait a minute. What? Did you inhale?
I did. I smoked marijuana maybe 5 to 10 times, if that, not a whole lot. But back then it was maybe 2 or 3% THC. They now have marijuana products that are 99% THC, and the typical edible is 85, 95% THC. Most people's opinion of marijuana is back at the Woodstock weed back in the 1960s and 70s. That's what they think of marijuana. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different drug today. It's been genetically engineered or biologically engineered for extremely high potency. It's addictive, and it is making a lot of people mentally ill.
Okay, that's not good to hear. Maybe we can get a little bit of detail in terms of how can it make it? How can it make you mentally ill? It just gets you high for a while.
Well, it causes psychotic reactions, and the emergency rooms in states that have legalized it see. I mean, I have a friend who's an ER doctor in Pueblo, Colorado. She sees marijuana-induced psychosis every day in the emergency room. I have another friend that's an ER doctor in Los Angeles. They see it every day. And it's very difficult to deal with. A lot of these mass killers, and we've done the research on this, a lot of the mass killers are marijuana users. And we have published a study on this, looking at about 65 of them, where we did the research and got a hold of toxicology reports or press reports where it mentioned marijuana use. The guy in Uvalde, New Mexico, where I'm going to talk now to the parents here, the guy in Uvalde, Texas, who shot up that school was a marijuana user. And his mother and his grandmother tried to get him off marijuana. He responded by shooting his grandmother in the face, and then he went in and killed all those kids. That was marijuana related. And that's what's in your school right now. You have kids that are mentally ill because of marijuana. And are dangerous. And even the Biden Justice Department has acknowledged this. They wrote a brief. Some medical marijuana users in Florida wanted to be able to possess guns, and you can't possess a gun if you're a marijuana user under federal law. So the Justice Department wrote a brief basically talking about how mentally unstable marijuana users are, and they can't be trusted with guns. So even the Biden Justice Department now acknowledges this. There's a tremendous connection with violence, and especially with domestic violence. And the data that we have shows that marijuana is involved in the majority of child deaths. We have data from Texas, Arizona, and I forget what the other state is, that marijuana is the #1 drug that's in the bodies of the people that are killing children. And if you look at, and again, talking to parents, if you look at the data from Colorado, which has had legalized marijuana for a while, high potency marijuana, Marijuana is the number one drug found in the bodies of kids who commit suicide who are between the ages of 15 and 18. 37% of them have marijuana in their bodies. Alcohol, it's 26%. So there's a connection between kids committing suicide and using marijuana and alcohol, but marijuana is greater for the younger kids. Parents that I talk to all the time tell me that their child starts using marijuana. They're relieved because the child is not using alcohol. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
and they start losing contact with their child. Their child goes off into marijuana land. And there's a reason for this. Marijuana is a hallucinogen. It's not a sedative, it's a hallucinogen. It's not like alcohol. Alcohol is very different. Alcohol is a depressive, a sedative. But marijuana is a hallucinogen, and the high potency marijuana is extremely psychoactive. And so the children become very involved in marijuana. It becomes their lifestyle, their reason for living, their religion, and they begin separating themselves from anybody else. And so these parents feel that they've lost touch with their children, and they wind up committing suicide. We have a number of parents in our group whose children have committed suicide. Typical case is a family in Baltimore, Maryland, where their child got involved with marijuana. This was a good family, and got involved with marijuana. The parents saw that the child was starting to deteriorate and said, look, come home. We want to help you get off the marijuana. You got to get off the marijuana. So as he drove home, he pulled off on the side of the road on an interstate, walked out into the middle of the interstate into the oncoming traffic and killed himself. We have a lawsuit right now going in Michigan where a young man had Crohn's disease and believed the hype about marijuana helping you with Crohn's disease. And the same scenario, the parents said, you're starting to get into these paranoid delusions. We want to help you, come home. And on his way home, he stopped off in the woods and blew his brains out. We have another situation, a doctor in Texas, where the child committed suicide in the living room right in front of the father and died in the father's arms. So they would rather give up their lives than give up the marijuana. And that's how bad this can get. You see a lot of these homeless people, a lot of them are marijuana users, and they're so debilitated by this constant hallucinogenic experience that they're really out of touch with reality. And I can certify this because they contact me all the time and threaten me and say really bizarre things to me. And I, whenever they contact me on the internet, I always keep a copy of it, and then we show it to legislators and we say, this is what you're unleashing in your state. These are the type of people that you're going to see a lot more of.
How do we ever get to the point? Well, first of all, he who controls the information controls the world. The information that you're telling us today doesn't get out to the general public on a normal basis. That you hear just the positives, but you never hear the side effects of this. And man, what you just described here is, by the way, I tried marijuana once. I tried it once, and it was a choice between marijuana and Jack Daniels won.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the information that I'm telling you has always been there. I mean, there have been studies on marijuana for decades showing the dangers of it.
Mm-hmm.
All the government websites, the Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA, the DEA have put out this information for decades. But here's what happened. Back in the Clinton administration, a couple of states voted in medical marijuana. The Clinton administration did not crush it, did not kill it in its nest, and it should have. Same thing happened under the Bush administration. They were afraid to touch it because it was, in quotes, medical marijuana. We didn't want to appear to be non-compassionate. This whole thing about medical marijuana was a scam, dreamed up by the marijuana industry to make marijuana look good.
Well, sure.
And it was effective. During the Bush administration, the marijuana industry was able to get a lot of money together from selling medical marijuana. They hired lobbyists, and then they started working on legalization. The Obama administration opened up the door to this and said, we're not going to do anything about it. That was 8 years. So now we've got 16 years of the federal government not doing their job And unfortunately, Trump didn't do it either. And so they went from medical marijuana to gain credibility. They got the money, and now they're legalizing. When we go up against them in the state, we are up against huge resources on the other side. And we just can't compete with it. The same thing with public media. The media is primarily liberal. The media is primarily pro-marijuana and drug legalization. We don't get fair treatment from them. So that's why we're now looking at litigation, because just like with tobacco and opiates, you can go to court, you can prove your case, and a decision can be made. And that's what we're trying to do now.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I am stunned by the information you're getting me now. And I'm stunned because not just what you're giving to me, but there is no way that people are aware of what's going on.
Oh, well, look, the same thing happened with tobacco. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
back in the 50s, they had advertisements, doctors support smoking Luckies because they soothe the throat. You can help you lose weight if you smoke cigarettes. The opiate industry did the same thing. They got a resolution through the Center for Disease Control. The doctors had to question people about their pain, and pain became a vital statistic. So doctors started getting the idea that they could be negligent if they don't take care of pain. And then the opiate industry spent $12 million getting a law passed, unanimous in Congress, restricting the ability of the DA to go after these pill doctors and the opiate manufacturers. And we said at the time, you're going to get an opiate epidemic if you do this. We were right. So they're just following the playbook that's been successful for these other addictive industries. And people, unfortunately, are falling for it.
Again, they're making it's kind of like COVID. You make decisions based on information. If you only have information to the positive side and you don't have anything to the negative side, what decision are you going to make? I mean, it's already been made for you.
Of course, they have a bigger microphone than we do.
Yep.
They can get this information out to the public. The unfortunate thing is they believe it. I mean, when I've debated marijuana lawyers, they are stunned by the information I'm giving them about the dangers of marijuana. Nobody ever told them about this. And they're and everything I say, I can back up with studies and resources. Nothing that I say can't be backed up by multiple sources of information. We just put out a booklet called The Risks of Marijuana Use. If anybody wants to get a copy, it's free. You go to the Americans Against Legalizing Marijuana website. It's very easy. AALM.info. AALM.info. You will see right on the front page that you can download the booklet Risks of Marijuana Use. It is a very comprehensive book looking at all the medical and physical dangers of marijuana use.
All right, thank you very much. My technician was just whispering in my ear over there. We're going to take a break, and when we get back, we've got some folks on the panel, and they're probably going to have some questions for you. We're speaking with Dave Evans, and we're talking about marijuana. BJ Edwards without Mr. Anderson this morning.
Last call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Talking to David Evans, we're talking about marijuana. David is a lawyer, and he deals with this on a daily basis and has done it for years. Myra, I want to bring you in because you're a counselor, and see kind of what your impressions are of what you've heard so far. Are you getting this kind of information in your daily feeds?
No, actually, I'm not. What we get is, it depends what feed, because there's always a split in every profession. Some that they're going to be more conservative and they're seeking to do the right thing, and the other ones are more, they, you know, they could care less. I'm sorry to say that. But the information provided by Mr. Attorney Evans is very valuable. Thank you so much. And in clinical practice, what I have seen is that people get extremely anxious with marijuana. They hallucinate, and they become delusional. that's what I have experienced in clinical practice with marijuana users, and it's highly addictive, and it's not only physically but psychological. In clinical practice, what I have noticed too is a decrease in motivation to go and work, especially with people receiving Medicaid, receiving disability. Um, they are in pain. So marijuana is an option. And in my own opinion, there's lack of motivation for them to do daily activities. At the same time, pain is very hard to deal on a daily basis. So, gotta be careful how we judge people. Um, and for example, Hassan, a well, the writer Hassan, a publication done in 2023 was research cannabis on bail. It says, well, there's always a positive side to most subjects, and research has been proven that there's actually some possible positive impacts for marijuana, such as controlling multiple sclerosis. I have counseled people in dialysis and in undergoing cancer treatment, and marijuana does help because it controls, it makes them more hungry, and they're usually very thin, and they need to gain weight. Um, it's it it's used to manage pain, and we know that. However, there is an effect in the family, and there is effect in reproduction for males and females. A
Reproduction?
res- yes. References the reference. I'm sorry. The a research written by Dunn in 2019, the effects of cannabis on female and male reproduction, um,
Wow.
reads, yes, it reads that including the release of follic- follicle stimulation hormone and luteinizing hormone, ovulation, sperm mobility, fertilization, and presentation. Large-scale population surveys have yet to demonstrate a delayed time to pregnancy, so it hasn't been proven, but it does impact the reproduction system, and it can increase perinatal complications.
Any comments on that, brother?
Yeah, as far as multiple sclerosis goes, the if people are concerned about multiple sclerosis, they should check what the Multiple Sclerosis Association says about marijuana. First of all, it actually, there's some studies showing it actually increases multiple sclerosis pain. Also, people with multiple sclerosis have difficulty ambulating. They shouldn't be under the effect of a hallucinogen. So it's not that helpful. Again, check with the Multiple Sclerosis Association. The FDA has not approved it for multiple sclerosis. As far as cancer goes, there are cannabinoids that are in the cannabis plant that do have some medicinal benefits. There is a product called CBD, which has no THC, in other words, no hallucinogen in it, that has been approved by the FDA for 2 rare juvenile seizure disorders. But that's it. And only when nothing else has helped. And even in that case, as far as CBD goes, CBD is harmful to your liver. The FDA package insert says that, and that if you're using CBD, you should have your liver enzymes monitored by a physician. The marijuana industry is telling everybody that CBD is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It'll help you sleep. It'll help you with this, help you with that. And they're not telling people that it's actually harming their livers. Plus, CBD can cause suicidal ideation. which again is not mentioned by the marijuana industry. If you go and get our booklet, The Risks of Marijuana Use, at aalm.info, we have all that information in there. Now, as far as cancer goes, wasting syndrome, there are two synthetic drugs, synthetic THC, which have been approved by the FDA, Chesomet and Marinol. They are measured doses. They have been gone through the FDA approval process. They are not marijuana. They are a synthetic THC. They are also warned in the package insert not to use this if you have any mental health problems. We have no problem if it's approved by the FDA, fine. But smoking marijuana, no medicine is smoked. Smoking marijuana and high potency marijuana is not a good idea. Even with Marinol, I think the highest recommended dose is 10 milligrams per day. Okay. Any doctor treating somebody for cancer who gives them marijuana, in my opinion, is committing malpractice because there are many, many drugs that are available, approved by the FDA for nausea from pregnancy, from cancer, AIDS wasting syndrome, and so forth. In our materials, we provide a whole list of those medications. It is not a good pain reliever. A recent study was done showing that people get the same relief from a placebo as they do from marijuana. Now, marijuana will make you feel good. It made me feel good when I smoked it, but the high potency marijuana can make you crazy. It can cause a psychotic reaction. A lot of people are recommending marijuana for veterans with post-traumatic stress syndrome. I was an Army officer. I have a lot of sympathy for veterans. My brother was a VA psychiatrist. My father was a doctor in the Army. My grandfather was a doctor in the Army. My brother was in the Medical Service Corps. You should go on the Veterans Administration website about post-traumatic stress syndrome and see what they have to say about marijuana use. First of all, if you're dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, you need to be able to process your emotions. And when you're under the influence of a hallucinogen, you can't do that. It blocks that effect.
Yeah.
They've also found, so they get poorer results with treatment for PTSD for people who use marijuana. It also can cause some of them to become violent. Now, we know we have the stereotype of the veteran coming back with PTSD who gets violent. We see this in the movies. Well, marijuana actually can cause that to happen. If you don't believe me, go on the Veterans Administration post-traumatic stress syndrome website. They've got a whole thing in there with studies about marijuana use. It is definitely affects in a negative way human reproduction. First of all, women that use marijuana while they're pregnant, their children have a lower birth rate. That's been documented. And marijuana, and it also causes birth defects. It also affects the spermatogenesis of males. So you males need to think about that are smoking pot. Okay. There's a connection between marijuana smoking and testicular cancer. Again, this has all been documented. To show you how irresponsible the marijuana industry is, the state of Colorado warns women, do not use this when you're pregnant. State of California warns women, do not use this when you're pregnant. State of New Jersey has a very detailed warning saying, don't do this if you're pregnant. It's going to really mess up your kid. Okay. The Colorado marijuana dispensaries, there was a study there done by a university. They got a woman to call them to say that she was in her first trimester of pregnancy and would they recommend marijuana. 66% of them recommended marijuana to a woman in her first trimester of pregnancy. That's a criminal act, in my opinion. That is grossly bad. The states that have legalized marijuana are very poor at regulating it. They override the warnings and so forth. There's a lot of other things about pregnancy that I can go into about it. Again, we've documented all this with studies, but that's how irresponsible the marijuana industry is. And by the way, when you go to a medical marijuana dispensary, you're not talking to a medical doctor when you go in there. You're talking to what they call a bud tender, which is usually somebody that uses marijuana themselves.
As versus
you say, what do you think? What do you think I should use for this? Now, wait, I did an undercover operation in New York. I have been treated for cancer. I also had a spinal cord injury. I brought my medical records into a pot doctor. Okay. I sat down. He walked in. He said, "Hey, we're going to get you your marijuana card today." He hadn't even asked me a question yet. He was going to give it to me. So I told him I had been treated for cancer and that I had a spinal cord injury. He did not ask, and I had my records there. He didn't ask me to verify anything. Okay. Now he had to put down some reason why I needed this. So he put down cancer, but then he had to put down something else. And he put down post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I said, "But I don't have post-traumatic stress syndrome." He said, "Well, was having cancer stressful?" I said, "Yeah, it was stressful." So this is a sworn statement, a state of New York, sworn statement affidavit he had to fill out that I had post-traumatic stress disorder. So I go to the pot store, okay? I walk in and I tell him, I went to see Dr. So-and-so. He gave me this recommendation for marijuana. I said to them, and by the way, I have all this on tape. I said to him, but he put me down with post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder. And the guy said, don't worry about that. We give that diagnosis to everybody. We had a mom come in here the other day. I got this all on tape, who was upset about dealing with her kids. And we put down post-traumatic stress disorder. That's the reality of what's going on. Okay. That is the loose, grossly irresponsible, negligent, self-serving things that are going on with the marijuana industry.
Amazing. I got one word to say to that. Boom. Wow. Oh man, folks, I hope you share this information with those in Ohio, actually anywhere in the United States. This is good information. Myra, I'm going to let you have a couple more minutes and we're going to go to break and I'll bring Tom back in. Tom has a question or comment, and thank you, Dave. That was incredible. Go ahead, Myra.
Yeah, that was a boom. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the correction about multiple sclerosis. Yeah, I wanted to read Ezekiel 14:3 because when dealing with clients and their marijuana, they just won't let go. It kind of become like their God. So Ezekiel 14:3, Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their heart and put the stumbling block of their iniquity before their face. Should I be acquired of all by them? So we cannot make idols, and it does become an idol when they start controlling your behavior. And the first thing in the morning, their first thought instead of being God is, I need my marijuana.
Yep.
Amazing.
It's very perceptive. It's their God, becomes their God, which doesn't happen with other drugs. The other drugs you get addicted, but it doesn't become this religious, reason for life that these other drugs do, including alcohol.
Like addiction. Hey, we're going to take a break. Myra, I'll keep you on after the break because I want to ask you a question about how many patients you're treating that are under 18 that are in that range. I don't know how many, if any, but I want to talk to you about that. Then we'll bring Tom on. You're listening to The Last Call. Our guest is Dave Evans, and we're talking about marijuana, folks. This is good information.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Yes, I was thinking, there's a correlation between what we're talking about here and COVID. I mean, after you hear the damaging effects that can happen from marijuana and how open it is, and okay, well, maybe there's going to be a few more car accidents, and maybe a few more industrial accidents, and maybe this and maybe that, and maybe grandpa and grandma may get exposed to marijuana in a third-party source. Oh, what's going to happen? Tom, speaking of COVID, why don't you come in, brother? Unmute yourself, please. Tom, unmute yourself. I can't hear you, brother. There you go. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you, Tom. I'm sorry. Don't know what's going on. We'll try Tom later. Myra, what about young patients on marijuana? Seen any of it?
I haven't. I know years. You see, since LGBTQ phenomena started, I felt that there was child abuse going on with that whole thing and how the schools allow it in the indoctrination going on. So I have not been working with pediatrics lately. R- I have, and I cannot go into details, but right now I don't have any issues, any clients that they're minors in drugs. But before it is definitely an issue in high schools. I mean, they get introduced to drugs very early, and marijuana, I believe, is one of those first drugs that initiates the process of maybe them being interested in trying something else. And early, at least young ladies becoming pregnant because of that.
Amazing.
Because they go in a it's kind of like mind control. They're very they since it gives them a euphoria. That's what I have seen in clinical practice. It gives them a euphoria. At least the ones I have treated that they're um under the effect and they need treatment. Um, they're very manageable. That's why you have to be very ethical, and they're easily influenced. Um, if somebody, that they trust or they don't trust, comes over and suggests something, they very well may go ahead and act on it. And it can make you very, very sad to the point where you can commit suicide. Yes, that is correct.
You know what's
The
interesting is that
Attorney Evans was saying, huh?
schools, their main job is to make children feel good. That's why parents have, to me, that's why parents have so many problems when they start putting their kids in public schools. If your child comes home and they're not happy with what's happening in school, then that's bad publicity. So teachers spend a great deal of time making sure that their underlings feel good about their sex, etc. This this and yeah, now I'm going to tell you right now. There will be dispensaries in public schools once this becomes legal. What do you think, Tom? Dave. What do you think?
Well, I think that that would be a great tragedy because, again, it's going to be the school promoting something that's harmful to the children. Probably what will happen is they'll go to one of these pot doctors, and most reputable doctors do not give out medical marijuana. So the kid, whatever the age is, I'm not familiar with what's going to happen in Ohio, can go to one of these pot doctors, and then the school is not going to be able to override it if they have the dispensaries in the school. It is a lot of kids are getting marijuana from other people that have medical marijuana dispensaries. Question was asked about how dangerous are the edibles to young children, especially with the higher potency these days.
Yeah.
The edibles are the highest potency. 85, 95% THC. They're made to look like candy, which is very attractive to children. There are a number of cases where kids are wind up in the ER because they've eaten a gummy bear or something, thinking that it's okay. The edibles also fool you because it takes longer to get high on an edible. So you might smoke a joint and get high fairly quickly, but an edible may take a half an hour. And what happens is that people then overdose on the edibles because they say, gee, I'm not getting high. And they take more of the edible and then they have a psychotic reaction or have something where they wind up in the hospital. Those people that are concerned about their heart health, the A big cardiac study just came out showing that people who use marijuana are more susceptible to strokes and heart attacks because of the effect that it has on your cardiac system. If you want an example of this, you should look at Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania. He is a pothead. He's been very open about this. He supports legalization of marijuana. He's lost half his brain because he had a stroke, and he's not an old man. But that is a typical example of what can happen to somebody who's a chronic marijuana user, and he is, and he's bragged about this. And why the people in Pennsylvania elected him, I don't know. But people need to really look at this ballot initiative because it gets sold. They tell people, first of all, it's going to generate money for the state. Well, the data in Colorado, first of all, it doesn't generate enough money in any state budget to make a real difference. Secondly, you wind up spending more money on all the damage that marijuana.
Yeah.
In Colorado, just like alcohol and tobacco, Colorado study was done. For every buck they get for marijuana taxes, they spend $4.50. Same thing with tobacco. For every dollar, it's, you spend many more dollars. They also talk about how this is a social justice issue because all these black people are in prison for marijuana possession. That is a total myth. Okay, it is a lie, but people believe it. Okay, and they don't want to be accused of being a racist by countering this. But I actually did the study, and I looked at the research and looked at the sentencing data, and it's a lie. It's just not true. Blacks are, if they are in prison for marijuana, it's because of they're in for marijuana sales, not for possession of personal amounts of marijuana. And New York sold marijuana legalization on this. New York had decriminalized marijuana over 10 years ago, so nobody was going to jail for years. But everybody believed that there were all these black people in prison for having a few joints, and it's just not true. I've been a criminal defense attorney since 1974. I've never known anybody to do 1 day of jail time for possession of small amounts of marijuana. If they are charged with marijuana, it's usually because they got caught with something else, heroin, and they've had a plea bargain down to the marijuana, or they were arrested for assault and they found marijuana on them, so they charge them with marijuana. So when you look at that data saying all these people got arrested for marijuana, you need to ask the next question was, well, what else did they get arrested for? That marijuana was just a secondary thing that they happened to find on the person when they searched them. So parents, I would be very concerned. Unfortunately, people don't read these ballot initiatives thoroughly. They don't understand how the marijuana industry exploits things by the language that they put in these things that gives them, the ability to commit murder. For example, when it comes to marijuana, medical marijuana, there's never anything in there about what is the proper dose of medical marijuana, because there is no proper dose of medical marijuana. No medicine is smoked. There's no way to titrate or figure out what the dose should be for something that you smoke. And yet they leave that out of all the bills, and people don't read the bills, and these bills get passed. So there are organizations springing up in Ohio to oppose this. I know they're setting up a website, so I would just look on the internet to see opposition to the Ohio ballot initiative. If people email me and the website gets set up, I'd be happy to send them the website address. My email is think with your head, think on 908 at AOL.com. So that's THINKON 908 at AOL.com. And I will send you some of the information that I've talked about today and when the Ohio website gets set up. But I would talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to other parents about this. Once marijuana comes into your town, the marijuana industry tries to take it over. In Pueblo, Colorado, they took over the town council there with people that are in the marijuana industry. And I have been told that they forbade the schools from saying anything negative about marijuana. In Massachusetts, The way that law got passed, it put the marijuana industry in charge of regulating itself. Okay. And now the legislature is intervening because there's been so many scandals. It's like putting the alcoholic beverage industry in charge of regulating itself, or the tobacco industry in charge of regulating itself, which we don't do. But they did it in Massachusetts because nobody read the proposal that was before the people. And this is the kind of things that they're doing, and they're getting away with murder.
Literally. That is just amazing. Think on 908 at AOL.com, right?
Right. And I'll be happy to send you out a packet of information, and including the Ohio website, as soon as I know that they're working on it. I'm not sure if they have it done yet, but there is a group. I'd encourage you to join the group, donate money, get the schools involved, get the word out, get your churches involved in convincing people to vote against it. It's not a done deal. Okay. We defeated it in South Dakota, North Dakota, Oklahoma last year. Virginia, we actually got to reverse marijuana legalization. So people will listen if you speak out. But remember that the marijuana industry is a lot of money, and they're putting out a lot of false information, and you have to be aware of that.
Martin has a question for you, and then we're gonna have to go, brother. I appreciate your time. We're gonna have to have you maybe back on soon. The information you're giving out here is well, I don't have a basket big enough to carry it around. Okay, but I do appreciate it. Martin, go ahead.
Amen. Yes, Attorney Evans, it's wonderful meeting you. I have to say, I'm you're changing some of my thoughts. I'm telling my friend here sitting across the table from Major Tom Havland right now, and I guess, sir, I'm going off of anecdotes, and you've got a lot of facts. So, question number one is, where can we find links to the facts that you have prescribed during this dialogue? Number one, and then number two, I would like to know, for those who are anti-gun, Attorney Evans, does this sound like the same argument we're using for marijuana that they use for guns? Because if this was a gun, it's up to me to pull the trigger, correct? So you can't, you see my argument. They can say, well, marijuana is a plant. It's up to me what I use it for. And if I want to harm myself, I'll harm myself. But hopefully that makes sense there, Attorney Evans. So
I understand your argument, but nobody out there is arguing that if you take a gun and put it to your head and blow your brains out, it's going to help you recover from a disease, which is what they're saying about marijuana. I mean, if you inject yourself with lead, they're putting out, everybody knows that guns are dangerous. Okay. That doesn't stop the people from misusing them. But not everybody knows that marijuana is dangerous, and that's the difference. Plus, marijuana is a hallucinogen. Guns don't make you hallucinate, okay? And a hallucination can cause you to become violent. A person who's normally not violent could become violent. Now, where do you get this information? You can go to the AALM website. That's AALM.info. AALM.info. You'll see the 4 bars up in the right-hand corner. You click that. It's got a whole bunch of policy statements and information. Okay. The book, The Risks of Marijuana, is on the front page. You can download it for free. Okay. You can also go to DFAF.org, Drug Free America Foundation, DFAF.org. A lot of information there. Go on the DEA website. Put in DEA.gov marijuana. You'll get stuff. Okay. Go to the Center for Disease Control, has a lot of great information on that. It's cdc.gov. They've got a whole bunch of papers on marijuana, well-documented facts. If you don't believe a word I say, when I give you the information, you can look it up yourself. That booklet, The Risks of Marijuana Use, has all the URLs. I read every single study that I put in that book. You can read it yourself. Okay. So far, nobody has proven me wrong on anything that I've said. You can look it up yourself.
Dave, we're gonna have to take a hard break. Okay. Can you hang in there for another 10 minutes? Because I've got another person who has a question. All right. Thank you very much. Dave,
thanks, BJ.
Follow up from you, Martin. I appreciate that. Hey, hang in there. Let me do this and that, and then we'll be right back.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
We are back. We're bringing Dave back, Dave Evans, from our first hour. Think908 at AOL.com. Dave concentrates on regulatory and licensing consulting for addiction treatment providers. If you didn't listen to the first hour, go back and listen to the first hour, because there is an incredible amount of information that you need to have to make an objective decision, whether it be the Ohio issue 2, or whether it be with your children, whether you see what's happening with neighbors, or if you're a teacher, or if you're an employer. You need to get this information, folks, because we're not talking about an innocent item that look, I have sleeping issues, brother. And my best friend has arthritis issues. And we're going to vote against this in Ohio. But if it passes, we're going, okay, I'm going to get some relief. I'm going to be able to get some sleep. And I'll let you comment to that, and then I'll bring Martin and Betty back on, and we'll continue the conversation. Dave, again, thank you very much for hanging on with us.
Did you want to reply about the sleep
go ahead,
issue?
please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, marijuana is no doubt, it's a hallucinogen. It's going to make you feel better. Okay. But I haven't seen any science that says that it's an effective sleep aid. It's a lot of anecdotes about it. Now, here's the problem. We don't do medicine based on anecdotes in the United States, because anecdotes, people's perception of what helped them may not be real. That's why we resort to science. We had a medicine that was put out that was made from, I think it was apricot pits, that everybody said was very helpful with cancer. And there was a lot of anecdotal stories about it. And several states passed laws saying that, you could use this medicine. Turned out to be completely false. So there's also the placebo effect, that people take something and it may, they may think that it's helpful, and it may not be. So I personally, given the psychoactive effect of marijuana, would not take something unless I knew it wasn't going to do me further damage. And taking marijuana could do me further damage. Same thing with CBD. It affects your liver. A lot of people are using CBD as a sleep aid, but they're not being told that they need to have the liver enzymes checked because it damages your liver. So there's an example of, I may get some sleep, but it's going to fry my liver. So I would look at, anything that's gone through the FDA process, you have a reasonable chance that it's going to be okay. Okay, now the FDA isn't perfect, but whenever the FDA gets criticized that a drug turns out not to be what they said, the finger that's pointed at them is, you didn't look at this enough before you approved it. Okay, so that's the reason that we don't do things based on anecdotal studies, because it could be all over the place. There's also a lot of political reasons in here. There is a woman named Angel Rach who claimed that she had an inoperable brain tumor. She took her case to the U.S. Supreme Court to be able to use marijuana. Now, I'm a marijuana survivor. I've had cancer 3 times, 3 different types of cancer, and she claimed that this brain tumor is inoperable, and she needed marijuana to shrink the tumor. And she got up there in front of the media at the Supreme Court crying, my children would be without a mother if it wasn't for marijuana. Well, we did some research on her. We hired a private detective. And it turned out that Angel Rach is the 4th name that she's had. She had been in another litigation where she had used her medical condition to gain advantage in litigation. And she submitted a doctor's report in one of these litigations saying she had a somatic disorder. Now, that sounds pretty bad, a somatic disorder. What does that mean? Well, if you look it up, it's the modern term for saying that somebody is a hypochondriac, okay? So we exposed her to the New York Times and everybody else, and Angel sort of just went off. Now, she did have a brain tumor, and it was inoperable because it was a benign brain tumor, and there was no reason to operate on it. There was no reason to go into her brain and take it out because it really wasn't hurting her. So she was telling the truth in that regard. So these are the types of things. We had a medical marijuana rally in Harrisburg. They were promoting medical marijuana, and we have all this on photographs. And there's a guy sitting in a wheelchair saying that you need to have medical marijuana. Okay, so the rally ends, everybody walks away. My friend with the camera stayed around. The guy gets up out of the wheelchair and walks away. Okay, so I guess going to medical marijuana rallies had performed some miracle that he was able to regain the use of his legs. So these are the things that you have to be aware of. And, I asked people also, if you were getting a medicine for your child, would you rather get one from the FDA that's approved by the FDA, or would you want to get one from your local pot store? And I asked this question also, if I can ask you one more question. I asked people, how many of you think that the tobacco industry is looking out for your family's interests? Nobody raises their hand. How many people think that the cocaine cartels are looking out for your family's interests? Nobody raises their hand. How many of you think that the marijuana industry is looking out for your family's interests? Nobody raises their hand.
That's amazing. I want to bring Martin back on. Got a comment from one of our listeners. Marijuana is a Mexican slang term for a loco weed. We're discussing cannabis, not a term coined in the 1920s. Confused the doctors of the day to criminalize the county doctor's number one prescription, cannabis tablets.
Yeah, it is true that back in the 20s, you could get tincture of cannabis, and it was sold in pharmacies. The term marijuana is actually a term that describes accurately the dried leaves that are smoked, and that's under federal law. Cannabis is the term for the plant, and a cannabinoid is a chemical that's in the plant, whereas marijuana is the dried leaves of the cannabis plant that are smoked or eaten. So that is a proper use of the term for that.
Betty, can you unmute yourself? I think you had a comment. We're having all kinds of technical problems with our listeners today. Martin, go ahead while we're waiting on Betty.
Yes, Attorney Major Tom Havlin has another great question, and I'm just kind of bolstered to ask it for him. It's the cost analysis of, one of the proponents for the issue to pass would be it will bring in the tax dollars to Ohio.
One-sided.
So what is the counter to that? Will it cost us in our hospital emergency rooms? Will our children be out of school more because it's more available to them? What's that cost analysis? Would it override the tax benefit? Could you comment on that, Attorney?
Yeah, that's been analyzed, particularly in the state of Colorado. We have a pie graph that shows the entire revenue of the state of Colorado, which is in billions of dollars, and how much they're actually getting from marijuana. It's not a whole lot. The money that comes in then starts going out in terms of hospital expenses, DUI crashes, problems in schools, medical treatment for people with addiction, people getting hurt by marijuana users, and all of the other things. And it's just, nobody nowadays argues that tobacco will help us raise money. Okay, nobody makes that argument because it turned out not to be true. Okay, you spend more on tobacco-related illnesses than you do with any money that comes in. And then what happens is once you get it passed and the marijuana industry starts getting money in there, they start lobbying against any increase in the taxes. Okay, check California, look it up. Okay, the marijuana industry out there is now arguing for a reduction of taxes on them because they can't compete with the black market. Now that's another argument, that we legalize it and regulate it, that it'll dry up the black market. It's had the exact opposite effect, okay? Because when you have a marijuana store, you have to pay rent, you have to pay minimum wage to your employees, you have to pay money for licensure. There's no way you can compete with the black market. People can always sell it for less. And how it increases the black market is that the marijuana industry then puts out advertising trying to encourage people to use marijuana. And people say, gee, I can get it for $5 less at the local pot dealer. And that's what's happening. So the marijuana industry is now actually petitioning the government in California to start cracking down on the black market. And the argument for legalization was that this was going to reduce law enforcement costs, and it has actually increased it. And look it up on the internet. Look it up on the internet. Look at the stories out of California. And this is happening in other states also.
Betty,
Let me ask you this question here,
bring
real
Betty in
quick,
first.
BJ.
can I try to bring Betty in?
Yeah,
You
go
there?
ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Because it
We
keeps
can hear
going
you,
in
yes.
and out, and I lose. Okay, I just wanted to make a comment because I couldn't find the C. I could only find the Q on my phone because I'm driving. Shame on Betty. But anyway, I just wanted to say that not only does marijuana mess up the health of people, the crime rate goes sky high. Because I'm from North Dakota originally, so I'm glad they're still got a little bit of common sense up there. But I had family in Denver, and they had to move out because the crime rate got so bad. They said it went up like 600%, and people break in just to get money to buy marijuana, even medical marijuana. It's just ridiculous.
And they're breaking into pot stores also
So,
to get it. And that's been another problem. The other thing is the marijuana smoke stinks.
oh, really?
Marijuana
Yeah.
production
So,
facilities
I just
smell like
wanted to,
skunk.
yeah, but
We're about to file a lawsuit in New York
I
to
wanted
try
to-
to get the state of New York to ban marijuana smoking in public because it's become such a problem.
Go ahead,
well,
Betty,
I want to
if you
thank you
can.
for coming on. Thank you for coming on because I'll tell you what, when I could hear you, I've learned a lot. I think it's amazing what you're doing, all the documentation and all that. So thank you so much. God bless you.
And again, if
And
you
I'm
don't
sorry,
believe me, send me an email, ask me a question. I'll provide you with the documentation. You look it up yourself. I understand that people are not going to believe me. So that's fine. Look it up yourself.
They don't
I'll give
believe
you
it.
everything.
They don't believe
can
about
back
the
it up.
COVID. They don't believe about anything. It says people got their heads up their butt. Sorry, that's the worst I'll go. But they got their heads up their butt. I'm heading to Mount Vernon now with Vote No on our issue and standing up against abortions. And it is people want to sit on their couch and just watch TV and let everybody else do the job. So, but I thank you for what you do. And I'll probably get all the things from either Myra or Martin or somebody. God
Thanks.
bless you.
Thanks, Betty.
Thank you.
And I know Martin has a question, but before he asks that question, you've mentioned the FDA and government agencies a lot, sir. And COVID, the information we got from government agencies wasn't really that pure. And that, what I'm trying to say is, yes, I hear what you're saying about the FDA, et cetera. However, how do people who don't trust those entities, how do they work?
Well, look at what I have published. Look it up yourself. If you don't believe me, look it up yourself. Okay. The stuff that's been on the FDA website and DEA website has been there for years. They've actually been challenged by the marijuana industry if they put up anything that's not accurate. The CDC and all those gives citations usually to where they got the information from. So look it up yourself. Form your own opinion on it. That's fine with me. That's what I've done. And
you come up with strong arguments to these letting people
Trust but verify.
yeah, well, look it up. Don't trust. Verify it on your own. And
Yeah, you don't want to verify this personally, folks. You don't want to.
no. I would suggest that you not use marijuana because you don't know. The other big problem with this, even in the states that have legalized it, the marijuana is very often full of pesticides, heavy metals, fungus, and so forth. And again, we can prove all that. We've documented all of that. We can show you where that the various states, in some cases, because things have gotten so bad, they've had to just stop selling certain products because there's the cannabis plant will absorb heavy metals from the soil. And in Massachusetts, we have a whistleblower there who worked in a pot production place, and they got I think it was fungus or mold on the flour that they were selling to people. So they just put hydrogen peroxide on it and let it dry out, and they sold it to people to inhale. Okay, this is the kind of stuff that's going on, or pesticides. These are all things that have been documented.
Wow, amazing.
We have a whole paper on pesticides and contamination with marijuana.
And Martin, I'm going to let you follow up, and then I'm going to let you go. But I could keep you here for another 2 hours, I think, because the information.
I love talking about it, and I very much appreciate this living room you've put me in. This looks great.
Well, get comfortable. Get comfortable.
Okay.
We want you to be comfortable. And Martin, I'm going to let you follow up. I don't want to be selfish with this, and I appreciate the time you've given. You've given contact information. If people want further information, they can always contact myself, JR at naturalfamilystrong.com, JR at naturalfamilystrong.com. I'd be more than happy to share the information with you. Martin, go ahead and follow up. And then afterwards, we're going to let the doctor, just see, you've got me convinced already. We'll have Dave Evans close it out for us during this last half hour. Go ahead, Martin, a follow up. I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about.
Thank you, BJ. Attorney Evans, I got to say, this is awesome information. Okay, guess what? I just got elected your state representative, Attorney Evans, and I brought all my buddies. What would you tell us right now about this issue, sir?
Good question.
Well, what I would tell you is that join with other legislators that are opposed to marijuana legalization. On the federal level, we have several members of the House and the Senate. We've got legislators all over the country that are on our side that are trying to, we've drafted a model marijuana user, a model right to know law that should be put into legislation so people know what they're getting. They should be warned about it, but talk about it. Give this information. Understand that the people that you're talking to have had years of propaganda from the marijuana industry that has to be overcome. Okay, and there's a lot of people that are in favor of legalizing marijuana who are good people. You know, they really think they're doing the right thing. They're not necessarily marijuana users, but they think they bought into some of this hype, like I did. You know, back with the ABA. I said to myself, yeah, I'm a hero. I'm standing up against the man. Okay. You know, get this thing. And it's very easy to get sucked into it. And they did the same thing with the opiates. They convinced everybody that people were not getting enough pain pills and pain was a human right and we had to do something about it. So they play on your compassion and your sense of justice. All these black people are in prison. So they play on white guilt. Okay. But it's just not true. And if you research it, and I have a whole paper on it, you can read it yourself, check all the sites, everything I say about in there. 3 of the people that I'm quoted in that paper, 2 of them are blacks and 1 is a Hispanic. You know, the actual war on drugs that they're protesting nowadays was actually a product of the Black Caucus in Congress in the 1980s. I was part of that because they had made all these gains in civil rights. And they didn't want drugs destroying all the progress that they made. So it was the Black Caucus that came up with these harsh penalties for drug use. And Joe Biden was a big part of that. I was there, okay? Biden was the guy we would go to stop drug legalization. So if you look into history, you'll see it all these things. There's another great organization called Smart Approaches to Marijuana. And their website is learnaboutsam.org. They've got terrific information, including one-pagers you can download. That's the Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Very, very good organization.
Can we find all this information? If I really was your representative, Attorney Evans, could we find all this information at addictionslaw.com, sir?
No, that's just for my private law practice.
Okay.
What you could do would be, I have an organization called Cannabis Industry Victims Educating Litigators. I've got information on that. That's civil, CIVEL.org, CIVEL.org. But go on the website. They've got a lot of good information. Drug Free America, DFAF.org. Smart Approaches to Marijuana has a lot of great information. There's a lot of organization out there. We have a whole list. We have moms, strong mothers whose children have committed suicide or died because of marijuana. Well, all their children's stories are on the website. It's just momsstrong, I think, .org, momsstrong.org. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of good quality information. And again, people can email me and I'll send them a lot of stuff, going into the pregnancy thing, mental health, the addiction, the risks of marijuana. We have other papers also if they have a particular interest, and the whole thing about social justice. I'll be happy to send those to you.
When you
That's
come
awesome.
to Ohio, when are you coming to Ohio? We
I
need,
know.
we need.
They're trying to get me to come up there. I live in North Carolina, but I might be coming up. They had talked about bringing me up to talk to editorial boards and so forth, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. But as soon as I get that website, I'll get it to you, and you can get it out for your folks. But
Okay.
the main thing is contribute money. Money is a big issue, and talk to people about this, and direct them to the information sources. And if you can do media on it. Show up at if they have a rally, show up at the rally. You don't want this in your state, believe me. If people vote for this, and then the reality is not what they thought. It is a predatory, aggressive, selfish, evil industry that you're letting into your state. You're letting a cancer into your state, and you're going to have a lot of difficulty bringing it under control once it gets in there. So just don't do it.
I'm going to close it out with this because the last part of our program, I'm going to talk about the us and USA and we the people. And we need to make we the people great again. And that's something that we have to do, not our congressmen, not any of our representatives, nobody outside. That is what you as an individual have to do. Don't sit back and say, I can't do this or I can't do that. With
Right.
that in mind, in 2 minutes, what would you recommend we do at this point, given where we are in Ohio with this issue coming up? We got two issues. Heavy emphasis has been on the abortion. That's a big issue, but to me, both issues are equal. If you save that baby and then put them in a position where they're going to drug them up and pat them on the rear end as they stumble into hell, I don't see that as a positive. Both of these have to fail. Please, advice.
Well, first of all, don't underestimate your power. Okay. I've done a lot of lobbying, and I saw a bill in New Jersey get stopped by one letter from an old lady. It was written by hand, and she made such a good point that they stopped the bill. So what matters is contact people. If you go to Smart Approaches to Marijuana, you can get on their list, and they will send you alerts that you can send out to people. You can contact your legislators. But right now, our government is in control of big, selfish corporations. Okay, they've got more influence than the people do right now. You've seen this with the pharmaceutical industries and COVID. So you need to speak up, and do not ever think that you're not important. Write to legislators, talk to your neighbors, find out where to go, find out people that are on your side.
Dave Evans, our co-host today, evidently. Dave, I always say the greatest error is the error of omission. It's what you didn't do. And I was in sales. It's always that call that you didn't make. That one call at this probably isn't going to work out anyway. So I just won't bother to try it. That, to me, that is the greatest error that you could possibly commit.
Yeah, and you can get involved with OM. You can donate to OM. It is a nonprofit. They are assisting a number of states right now to fight legalization, including Ohio. I think we're doing $75,000. I think it's $75,000 of advertisements in Ohio that are going to reach hundreds of thousands of people. So again, you can go to the OM website, aalm.org. It's nonprofit. You can get it deductible. What we do is we don't lobby, but what we do is we dispense information to the local people that helps them. And, we'll set up websites and things like that. Like we're helping with the Ohio website and get on the OM list.
Dave Evans, think on 908 at AOL.com. Think on 908 at AOL.com. I can't possibly put all those websites out that you put out there, sir.
No.
You are obviously well versed in this, and we need somebody with your expertise on the battle line with us. Thank you very much, brother. God bless you, and Godspeed.
Well, very good. Well, the one website is AALM, because you can ask for information on that website and it'll get to me.
AALM.org.
AALM.info.
Info, AALM.
AALM.info. That's your source for all the other stuff.
Thank you very much, Dave Evans.
Very good. Thank you for having me. I
All
appreciate
right.
the opportunity.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
You as well. What do you do? Maybe the marijuana isn't your issue. Maybe you're outside of Ohio, right? It should be an issue, folks. It should be the issue. We shouldn't be ignoring this. What you feed will grow, and what you starve will die. That's what's happening to issue 2 in Ohio, in my humble opinion. Look, to me, it is just as important as issue 1. Both are critically important. But what we're doing, do we really need marijuana with what we're doing to our kids already? Really? Do we need this? Kind of guarantee them that they're going straight to hell? Some of the things you might do outside of this. Pacific Justice Institute, and we've had the president on our company before, on our show before, filed a suit against St. Jude's Christian Research Hospital for religious discrimination. We love St. Jude's, but they have kicked people out of their organization or made it almost impossible for them to work in the organization unless they get a vax. And this is about somebody from St. Jude's who refused to get the vax, working at home. They're discriminating against that individual. She worked in St. Jude's IT department as part of the team where some colleagues worked at home, as did she during the pandemic. No patient contact. She's asked to work from home for religious accommodations. Just received notification that she had to take the vaccine to be terminated. 2023. October 2023. If you're a contributor to St. Jude's, they should hear from you. You don't want to know what to do? You want to know what to do? Buy some pillows. Buy some sheets. There's people out there that need our support. Give to AALM. There's a lot to do, folks. A lot to do. I mentioned, why not make America we the people again? We the people hire servants and then expect them to do the right thing. And they're pounded by special interests to the tune of hundreds and thousands and hundred thousands of dollars. You ever see where a congressman goes after they leave office? Some of them go to work for these special interest groups at a nice salary. According to my research calculations, October 3rd was day 1000 since American patriots with Bibles, cell phones, and flags in hand were lured into a political trap at our nation's capital. God-fearing, righteous American patriots exercising their First Amendment rights, redressing their grievances, and that is in that First Amendment. Instead of their government listening, the convoluted message that followed to all Americans was, don't question Uncle Deep State. A message that continues yet today. We talked to Isaac Yoder. October 4th, one day after October 3rd, he reported to serve his prison sentence for walking in to the White House in John Adams garb, was probably in there 30, 40 seconds and then walked out. 1 year in prison. 1 year in prison. J.D. Rivera, 8 months, I believe, a cinematographer who walked in and did his job, taking pictures, like some of the others, NBC, ABC, etc. had their folks in there, they're not going to jail. Why is that? Yeah, it's because of Joe Biden. No, it's because of you, or lack of you, lack of us. I'm not saying that you contact the president or your senator or your representative federal or even your state. I'm not saying not to, rep or senator. But where you need to start here, as we always say, is in the family. Now, you're not going to complete that job all the way, all right? We're already in a mess because of COVID. And then because of public education. Taking your authority away from you. Teaching your children morals that aren't yours. And then when they graduate, they send you home complete strangers. That's been going on for years, folks. But your children need to understand something. You love them enough to die for them. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, et al. Wouldn't die for you. They live on your money. They live on your trust. But like we said early in the program, trust but verify, right? You bet your sweet bippy. A Christian acquaintance of mine was bragging to me about how they provided medical help to the needy. In this case, it was an illegal alien who were taking our tax money, goods and services and overnight stays, our tax money. They've broken into your house. They've stolen your food. They've stolen your goods. They slept in your bed without your permission. And then your next door neighbor comes in and says, okay, any medical needs you have? I'll be glad to help you. Does that make sense? But I'm a Christian. We want to show them the love and hope of Jesus Christ. Yes. You remember the woman at the well? What did she receive from Christ? What would Jesus do? Do you encourage that kind of behavior when somebody steals something from you? Or worse than that? Do you try to convict them or encourage their bad behavior? But I digress. He, this associate, was treating this trespasser, illegal alien, for free. Now, I want you to compare that to the J6ers because they were trespassing as well. And it is assumed that their intent, Bibles in hands, flags, cell phones, that they were going to overthrow the government. That's what they were there for. This is when redressing grievances looks like an overthrow of government. And this is done, we talked about this earlier in the program today, by a one-sided conversation. We hear from politicians, the news media carries the ball, and the next thing we know, we have people that are trying to overthrow the government. Isaac Yoder is a father of 4, has his own business. J.D. Rivera had both of them on the program, father of 3. Taking them away from the family. You know, it has to be something pretty serious if you're going to take a father. Remember what we talked about, when you remove a father or a mother, children have an inherent need for it, from the family, there's hell to pay, folks. Check the prison systems that talk about their family life. In the 1 year or 8 months that JD or Isaac has spent away from their family, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Are people around them supporting them? There's where you can help out. There's people in situations like this all the time. Think about how different the border invaders are treated than the First Amendment practitioners in Washington, D.C. Once the illegal alien is on American soil after breaking through barriers, after breaking through barriers, Does law enforcement treat them with kid gloves? You bet your sweet bippy. Make sure they're healthy, provide food and shelter for them. On the other hand, American citizens found to have been in Washington, D.C., get early morning visits from Nazi-like storm armed troopers who wish only to lock them up and throw away the key after they make a bad example in the neighborhood of them, wake everybody up early in the morning. These continuous home invasions are still happening, folks. Others have actually remained in confinement since January 6th without a judicial decision as to their future. That's because they're labeling them as invaders. You can do that. Public defense, right? Defending the country. They're smart. They're smart. The only similarity in these two invasion comparisons is that in both cases, law enforcement did not force the trespassers, Washington, D.C., at our borders, to leave, but instead policed the area to make sure there was at least some order to the event. I mentioned the two examples of what went on with Isaac and JD. Is this a case for reparations, folks? When the curtains are drawn back and we actually see what happened, we still don't see the videos. We see videos of everything else, right? But when the curtains are drawn back, then what? When we really see how mistreated these individuals were. Wow, wow, wow. So how are we going to repay these people? No, we spend what, 100 million or, I'm sorry, 100 billion or 200 billion in Ukraine. And look, after the damage is done, we're going to have to probably pay another $500 billion just to restore Ukraine, right? American taxpayers. Absolutely amazing, folks. Need to get that banner down. I'll put that one up there, but there, because Trust but Verify is pretty much where we need to be these days, folks. So what are you going to do? Are we going to issue reparations? The cost of the aforementioned illegal alien invention just this year will cost the American taxpayer over 150 billion. I'm guessing it's more like 200 billion. And if you add to that the restoration of Ukraine, we're talking about $500 billion. Let's use that money for reparations. What do you think? There's another cost involved here, folks. I'm going to let some of our viewers or panel in. That's the cost of doing nothing, because that is how all this is happening, and worse. Be it attack on these patriots, open borders, outrageous spending, child abuse by the experts, pharmacy-friendly medical community, and of course, the war machine capitalist. What if it were your son, daughter, or father, or mother in a similar situation? And I'm not giving you yet another angle to complain about. You can listen to Fox News for that. Here's the deal. The ball is in your court. You can shake your head and go, gosh, what can I do? It's the city, yada, yada, yada. You don't know what you can do until you try. Right? I mean, you may be out there saying,
well, that's the story of my life. No respect. No respect.
Earn that respect. You have to go out and earn that respect.
Heck yeah! Heck yeah!
Hey, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to see if anybody else, if Major Haviland can get in. By the way, congratulations, Major. You made the big news out there today, and Myra, etc. See if we can get somebody else in to discuss this. This is BJ Edwards without Mr. Anderson this morning. Your last call. And I still don't know. JC, I can even bring you in if you want. I'm going to try to bring, well, maybe Major Tom is going to go over to talk with Martin.
I forgot
Here we go. There we go. JC, any comments this morning?
Not JC.
Miller just said not JC.
Yeah.
Hey, here's my question. Where do I send the money?
Okay, I'll get that information to you.
I'm sick of sending money to everybody and
Okay.
every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Everybody wants money. Money has not fixed nothing. I told him when I ran county commissioner, I said, you got 40 years. Just say no. And the DARE program, 40 years, dumping money into that, thinking that's going to work. Kids are on dope and they don't know what sex they are. I mean, hello. You know, we're having a hard enough time trying to make money here in this country with Joe Obama and the Marxism and communism. It's nuts.
I get it.
What'd your thing just say? Make the church great again.
Yeah.
I don't believe money's going to fix nothing. Until we make the church great again, we're toast. We're going to get these stupid bills in. They're going to kill babies and they're going to legalize dope. And it's like, nobody cares. They don't care.
Yeah, it's turning pretty dark. It's turning pretty dark. Go ahead and unmute yourself. While you're doing that, I'm going to try to play this. If this will play, go ahead and try to play that, Martin.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't mind, BJ, I'd like to go ahead and show this video.
Okay. If we can get there.
Oh, I think you hit it and looks like we might have double did it. Hold on there, BJ. Let me grab it. Here we go.
Yeah, it's not showing on. There you go.
There it is. Okay. Stand by, sir. In 3, 2, 1.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke. When I grow up, I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills. I want to be judged by my political beliefs. I want to get promoted based on my chromosomes. When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells. And have my words policed by HR. Words like grandfather, peanut gallery, long time no see, no can do. When I grow up, I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder just by following the crowd. I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Well, I think I'm having technical difficulties there, BJ, but I think we get the idea. If you caught some of that commentary.
Yeah. The only thing they didn't have was a joint sticking out of their mouth, but go ahead.
Right. But hey, if this issue passes here in Ohio, maybe they'll refilm that. Hey, BJ?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. So, Tom, you got a comment? I see you snuggling up there with Martin.
Yeah, right here next to my buddy Martin. It was a good day yesterday. The Epic Times finally ran the piece on the white fibrous clots, where they're quoting a lot of embalmers that are seeing the clots, and then they also referenced the worldwide embalmer clot survey that I did.
Whoa.
Responded to the survey are indeed seeing these white fibrous clots. So it hit the Epic Times. It got actually pushed out in an email to all subscribers of the Epic Times yesterday, and then the views and the comments started to really take off. As of this morning, BJ, there was over 2,000 people have viewed the article, and of those 2,000 that have viewed it, there were over 700 of the people actually made.
Now there you go. Yeah, that's the start. I don't know why that keeps bugging in and out, but that's a start, Major Tom. That's a start. Congratulations on your work you're doing. And when I was listening to the marijuana discussion this morning with Dave Evans, I couldn't help think about COVID and how that information just one side of the information of this is good for you. This is going to be good for you. This isn't going to hurt you. This is going to help your health. How that compares to what they're saying about marijuana. This is going to be good for you. It's going to do this and that and the other. It's going to raise money. And look, you're not going to be able, the damage that this is going to do is not going to by any way balance out in terms of what's going to happen. And we didn't really get into a deep discussion about the family issues, but you're already having problems controlling your children, getting them under your authority because of public schools. And now they're going to stick a joint in their mouth. Do you have any hope at all?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, BJ. We are in an information war. I read a book years ago in the 90s written by a couple, Alvin and Heidi Toffler, called Information Warfare. It was one of the very first books out about this issue, about misinformation, disinformation, the battle that we were going to be in the future. And we have arrived. And it's only going to get worse, with the whole thing with deep fakes that are coming. We may, get some really strange things happening where, it looks like a president is, starting World War III, right? Those kind of things could happen with deep fakes. But people have to use their power of discernment now more than ever, don't they, Mark?
Amen.
In terms of determining what is and is not true.
Once again, parents have to intervene. They have to look in to see what their kids are doing in their bedrooms, in their schools. There has to be a lot of questions. That what has to stop, BJ, is, I've got a good kid. And then they just go about their business, their adult business. Well, my kid's good. He's got good grades. She's in the dance recital this coming Saturday, so everything's good. And the questions need to start coming from the parents' mouths to the little one's ears or the young one's ears.
Because they're naive, right? They're gullible. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even as adults, we're naive and gullible in a lot of situations.
They're trusting. They are
They are
trusting.
trusting.
I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing any negative from the schools, so things must be okay. Hey, if you ain't hearing anything negative from the schools, what's going on in the schools? There's a problem. There's definitely a problem. Hey, listen. The Supreme Court legalized contraception in 1965. Think about this: pornography in 1969, abortion in 73, homosexuality in 2015. I'm sorry. Yeah, homosexuality, marriage in 2015. And now we're going to get into a drug-induced, I was kidding sarcastically about, we're going to need marijuana and more drugs like that, given what's coming down in America today. This is just, you're right. Parents are needed. The battle starts in the home, but this is kind of like the natural family. The family is the foundation of all civilization, okay? It is the foundation, and the building is leaning. So you got to start pushing against that lean in the building. But if the foundation isn't fixed at the same time, it's just going to either lean the other way or it's going to completely fall over. The family is the key. And yes, the church is important, but if the family is broken, the church consists of the family, the society consists, the government consists, everything consists of the family. If the family is broken, nothing else is going to work. You can fix that top portion.
Amen.
But if you don't fix the family, but while you're doing that, go out and talk with the neighborhood, start having neighborhood meetings, or get to know your neighbor, for crying out loud. And look, build relationships. Focus on building relationships. That's in the family and that's outside of the family. If you try to exert authority over somebody that doesn't respect you, good luck. I was in the service. The one thing that they do is they demand respect immediately. And I mean immediately. They show you, they sleep deprive you, they push you around, they scare you to death. And then for another 6 months, they keep that up in the morning, do this, do that, march here, march there. That is demanding respect for authority. But you can't do that back in your family now. That's over with. That part of the game is over with, folks.
That's correct. If you come down with that kind of strictness now, BJ, you could catch a case. A dad could catch a case. Hey, he did this to me, officer. He said this to me. And now the father gets questioned. Yeah, so.
Great point. Great. Lose your child, or I'm going to refuse them to be transgender. Here comes CPS.
But I say, BJ, Dad, stand up anyway. Put the hands in the handcuffs if that's the charge. That I was properly disciplining my child so that he or she will grow up normal and straight. Put the handcuffs on me, officer.
You go to jail for prison for a year or two because you stood up for your child, or you can talk to that child when they're 25, 30, 35 years old, and they say to you, Dad, why did you let this happen? Which choice would you have, brother?
Right.
Which choice would you have?
Right, BJ.
Really?
That's right. What will they say when you're in your box? Is what I like to say, BJ. When they're looking at you at your funeral, what are your children going to say about you when they look down into that casket?
Good point.
Did you fight for them, or did you just let them go off into the bad direction?
Correct.
Yep. Myra, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Brother Thomas, that is an outstanding article. And I'm so glad the Epoch Times, it's out there, and I saw it this morning, and I thought about you. I found, I didn't read it. I said, this is something like what Tom was talking about and has been working on. So I was so pleasantly surprised to come to the show and know that it was you, brother. And it's so good to see two men that love the Lord together. Last call really is coming together with the team. So I just want to decree something, because we need a miracle in this country and only Jesus can do it. Hebrews 2:4. God also bearing them witness both with signs and wonders and with diverse miracles and gifts of the Holy Ghost according to his own will. It is written, Ephesians 3:20, now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. And finally, Isaiah 43:19, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Hallelujah.
Amen, Sister Myra.
Amen.
Amen.
Hey, when I look at society, here's what I feel. On a chalk, folks. It just drives me. I'm sorry if you can't feel that. If you cannot feel that in society, and I don't get not doing anything. I don't understand that. How can you sit by and let a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old child start the process of changing their sex? I don't know how you can do that. I honest to God don't know how you can do that. And yeah, you may have to go to prison. I'm not saying be violent, but I'm saying you got to do something to stop this. You have to do something to stop this insanity. And marijuana is just another addition to all this insanity that's going on. Man, can you imagine walking down the street in Ohio and you smell something in the air? Huh? Oh yeah.
The slippery slope is getting more and more slippery every day, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. Hey, this is Do Radio, folks. We keep by the way, please pray for this program. It's obvious that we need help, folks.
Yes.
We need technical support. We need partners to help us to finance things. We really need some support. Please pray about that. This is in God's hands, not ours. We're doing the best we can with what we got. We are showing up, folks. We are showing up.
BJ.
We're giving good advice, and to me, we need to get the message out to more people in a better way. So please pray about that. Please pray about that. We'd appreciate it. Look at it's this is crazy. When I go through the week, I can't prepare the show. This is a weekend show. I can't prepare this on Monday because Monday things change so radically between Monday and Tuesday. And okay, I'll start on Tuesday and I'll get it working ahead on this. No, Wednesday becomes something differently. And then what? Yesterday was Israel is back at it again. I mean, it's something every day. So to stay current with this, we have to prepare the show basically on the weekend, the night before. It's just absolutely insane what we have to do here, gentlemen. I'm gonna let you close it out. We've got a couple 3 minutes left. BJ Edwards, last call. We've got we had a co-host Dave. Please share Dave Evans' information. Oh my God, the information that guy was giving was incredible. When I talked to him on the phone, I just got a piece of it. Man, like I said, boom. It was just incredible, the information he gave out. The ball's in your court, gentlemen.
Well, I haven't got much else to say. I'm not going to sing my song again, so.
Well, I'll just say this, BJ. We may be a ragtag group, but God has given you, sir, some access to some wonderful information that folks, not just here in Ohio, need to hear, but all over the nation of the United States of America and even the world abroad, because of the topics and the subject matter that you bring to Last Call with BJ Edwards. So I double with your prayers, sir, that we can make it a more concise package so that it's easily digestible for anyone who tunes into this program. Because BJ, thank you for saying what you say. Thank you for allowing us to say what we say. Fathers, get into the game. Get into the game. Even if you are separated, as I am, you can still have a say in your children's lives, and you can steer their hearts and minds correctly, but you got to do it. You can't, and I'm going to say this, you can't just pray about it, brother. You have to be the hands and feet of God as an answer to your own prayer. That's all I have to say, BJ.
Start with prayer, and I always
and then move your hands.
Yep. Yeah. But I always talk to folks at prayer groups. I said, okay, guys, I appreciate you praying, but kind of back off a little bit, because every time you pray, you give me more to do. All right.
Because you do something, BJ, and most of the people in the other room with their hands folded, they stay folded. I get it. I'm another one who releases his hands and says, okay, Lord, where do I go? Here I am, Lord, send me. Isaiah chapter 6.
Yep. And I hear in the prayer meetings, they bring up an issue, and let's pray about that issue. And then they bring up another issue. And I want to say, okay, if you see a need, that's your calling. Go for it, brothers and sisters.
Go. Just like Isaiah. Go.
Yep. Hey, we're going to have to close this out. I really appreciate all the help this morning and your patience with us. I hope we got out, but if we didn't, this is recorded and we'll send it out soon. I apologize for any technical difficulties that occurred, but hey, it is what it is. It's in God's hands, and we got to do what we can do. I want to thank our guests today. Man, this just has just been, anyway, it's so fulfilling to do what I'm doing today. I got to run, guys. Thank all of you. Last call. Tell your friends about us and pray for us.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.